Welcome back to Not That Important. We're recording this the day after Pakistan's heavy defeat to India in the Asia Cup. It's been a difficult 24 hours. We definitely needed this time to
48.
48. Oh, well, I guess if you consider the fact that this game was played over 2 days, that is absolutely correct. It's been a difficult 48 hours then. The game started off as it was scheduled to be played on Sunday, but because it was shifted from Pakistan to Sri Lanka for reasons we will definitely delve into at some point. But for the purpose of this podcast, we'll keep it to the game. And there was a reserve day allocated for this game because the coffers do have to be filled, and this is the game that fills the coffers. Anyways, coming back to the game, like we said, a difficult day for Pakistan all around, bowling, batting, fielding. If I take a look at the scorecard, overall, India batting first, 356 for two across 2 days, as we said, because of the rain delays. Excellent performances from their top four. Shubman and Rohit giving them the aggressive sort of start we expected them to come out with after that first India-Pakistan game, which was rained out, which again, fair to say that Pakistan's fast bowlers dominated the um, initial proceedings in that game. And so being the class players that they are, Rohit and Gill came out strong, and then that was capped off later by Kohli and KL Rahul scoring centuries. Kohli again just phenomenal. The way he continues to you know play against Pakistan every time and deliver. It's tough to take for us. As fans of Kohli, as people who like to watch him bat, it becomes a little bit difficult to like him or say anything nice about him when you see the way he just absolutely delivers against Pakistan every time. And then, yeah, after that, Pakistan just with a whimper, 128 all out, no fight, nothing really shown, nothing to take away from that game, to be honest. No positives, only negatives. And so yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, initially, I'll hand it over to you, Arman.
Tough 2 days for sure. और वही बात है ब्रो, कोहली जैसे भी लगे लाइक हमारे खिलाफ कोई खास दुश्मनी है उसकी ब्रो, I don't know what it is, but it's insane the amount of times you think of like big tournament games we play against him, and he always seems to just be at his very best. And at a certain point, as a fan, you feel like you're at his mercy because you see at times the guys who are running into bowl to him, and you know they're not going to get him out. Like I think yesterday was just one of those days. Um, I think we should probably, start at the very beginning. Uh, what are your thoughts on Shubman Gill, man? How he came out with that very clear plan?
I honestly like from a neutral perspective, which again is very hard to come from. Very exciting for India. Definitely very exciting for world cricket to see a young batsman who's shown a lot of promise and has delivered like outstanding or phenomenal numbers so far in his career. And for us, something I was thinking about earlier as well. We don't watch IPL.
Yeah,
Again, no, we're Pakistan cricket fans. We love Pakistan players. Pakistan players do not play in IPL. We won't go into those reasons. We're not here to talk about politics. Maybe one day we'll speak about that. But because of that, we don't really watch IPL because again, we're so you know
it is what
centered
it
on
is.
the Pakistan
Yeah,
cricket team, and so we don't get to see some of these young players. Like I know KL Rahul similarly, a lot has been talked about him. All we'd seen of him was those T20s that he's played against Pakistan in the past couple of years. So, um, you know, um, Shaheen sort of blowing away his stumps was the lasting memory of KL Rahul. So again, for him to come out as well and deliver finally shows us what these guys are really about. And I guess the next generation of Indian cricket is in good hands, which again, there was never any doubt about that. It's just that for us who don't get to see these guys on a regular basis, it was, yeah, it was finally, you know, seeing that in action. And so yeah, the way he took on the bowlers, I think Rohit struggled a little bit initially because Naseem was bowling really well. His seam movement was outstanding. He seemed to beat the edge as he always does. It almost seemed like with Naseem, he's almost seems like he's too good to get a wicket because the batsmen are just so far away from finding
can't
an
touch
edge.
him.
They
Yeah.
can't touch him. But whilst Rohit struggled initially, Shubman really came firing at Shaheen. Again, maybe that had a little bit to do with Shaheen's niggle, which like he got on his finger when he tried to catch that ball from Shubman early on of Naseem. But yeah, he just didn't seem on it. And Shubman took full advantage of it, advancing down the track, playing his shots, and really taking the game to him. So yeah, from an Indian perspective, really good signs.
A little bit of a killer instinct there as well, man, because you can make a plan and you can prepare and everything, but if you don't have the balls to go out and do it, it doesn't matter. And I think what he's shown some of the senior players in his camp, and I think something that we'll get into our batting later, but what I think a lot of our batsmen can learn from him as well is how to really back yourself. Obviously, like we said again, there's an element of bravery. Maybe Shaheen's ball wasn't swinging as much, but walking down that bowler at that phase of the game, it takes a hell of a lot of guts, and you've got to admire it. And it's interesting, obviously, Shubman and Shainaf really first faced off in the Under 19 World Cup, and I think 2018, where Gill got a century. And then the first match, he didn't really look like he had a clue against Shaheen. But today, or this past game, he got some of his own back, and he really dominated Shaheen in those initial overs. Obviously, it was nice to see Shaheen come through with the slower ball and
Mm.
outfox him, get one back over him. But I think Shubman versus like Naseem Shaheen is going to be, it could be one of the defining battles of the next 10 years or so.
That's so
Hopefully,
interesting that you
they're all
said
fit.
that he played that they played each other in the Under 19 World Cup because like
Yeah,
dude, I'm thinking of Shubman as like some young upstart, and I'm thinking of
yeah,
Shaheen as like a senior bowler, like the leader of the Pakistan attack, and they're the same age. So it really shows you like how Shaheen has matured and like how he's come along in the last few years
yeah,
as well. And also
absolutely.
like Shubman Gill, to be fair, like if you look at his numbers, like outstanding and 60 plus averaging in
Yeah.
ODIs with the healthy strike rate as well. So yeah, excellent start to both those careers, and like you said, hopefully India and Pakistan play each other a lot more, so we can continue to see that rivalry develop.
If I could just say one more thing before we move on from this, I think like all three of these guys are kind of like microcosms for their cricketing environment, in the sense that like you see like Naseem and Shaheen, classic story of like teenage bowlers getting thrown in there and having to mature very quickly. Obviously, guys with a lot of pace and that swagger that we talked about in the last episode. Both of those guys, Shaheen and Naseem, they have that air of confidence about them, which you love to see. And then Shubman, more of like a refined Indian batting product. He's probably scored tons and tons of runs at like every level. And he's at that stage where he's still young, but unlike what we do sometimes with our batters, he was never looked like he was rushed into the team. He came through and he took the place of Shikhar Dhawan, who's obviously been like a great contributor to the cricket for the
Mhm.
last 10 years or so. So I think you get really classic examples of the cricketing culture in both countries with these three guys.
Yeah, 100%. And also, just observing them bat, the way they were dominant, their batsmen, the top four, obviously, those are the ones who got the bat today. And comparing them to ours, like apart from Babar, who obviously has that elegance, that natural, flair, the rest of the Pakistani batsmen often look like, even if they're playing well, it often looks like it isn't always that easy for them. Like, for Imam, for Fakhr as well. But with
Mhm.
the Indians, when they're in form, when they're striking the ball, it's like, these are they're born to do this.
Yeah, they're already made batsmen
Yeah,
for this level.
the technique
Uh,
is perfect.
the
The
technique and
the
everything, very
shots,
pleasing to
the
the
decision
eye, and
making, the
yeah,
aggressive
yeah.
nature. So yeah, all of that, and that came to the fore today. Because Pakistan's bowlers had really no answer. There was a brief period on the first day where we took back-to-back wickets where Shadab came on to bowl firstly, and Rohit took him to the cleaners. And honestly, like he deserved to be taken to the cleaners because some of
The
that
way he was
bowling was
bowling.
like absolutely pathetic. Like bowling full tosses, just pitching it short, half trackers. Like you're bowling to Rohit Sharma, one of the most dangerous batsmen in the world. And yeah, you can't be offering any gifts, and that was literally just handed to him on a plate. But good on him. Like he came back at least and took that wicket. Courtesy a really good catch from Fahim Ashraf, and that gave Pakistan an opening where like Shaheen came back into the attack. He bowled that slower ball and got the wicket of Shubman Gill, and it gave us a little bit of hope because there was a period where Kohli and Rahul were new to the crease. But then it rained, and then yeah, that day was washed out, and we came back the next day, and yeah, just from the get-go, just bad news for Pakistan. Things just continued to go from bad to worse. Haris Rauf ruled out. He was one of
That
those
added,
players
I
where
think, 20 or 30 runs onto their total as well,
not just 20 or
without
30
making any
runs, but
excuses. But
it just gives you more confidence as a batting unit that hey, you can take your time because you know like the
yeah,
part timer is going to be
definitely
bowling.
किसी और को
And
आना
also like
पड़ेगा. Yeah.
in those conditions where no one else was getting that breakthrough in the middle overs, like Harsh Rauf is our enforcer in the middle overs, so without him there, it was almost like free license for the Indian batsman. But still, you still have to play with what you have, and Pakistan knew that he wasn't going to be there, so they had that time to plan. And the way they started, and this is something we spoke a little bit about, and the way they started was I think he bowled. But Shadab finished that first over, which he had from overnight, and then after that, he bowled one of Naseem and Shaheen from one end, and he bowled a spinner, or like I think Fahim bowled one over in the middle from the other end. And given the situation, given the fact that Haris Rav's quota had to be completed, I didn't disagree with that, but that is something that you wanted to talk about. So I'll let you do that.
Yeah, we got into a little bit of a debate on what's up with this. First, I just want to say that, like, obviously, with the first day's play being called off, at that point, objectively speaking, India were ahead. But as a Pakistani fan, I actually think the rain break hurt us more,
Mhm,
which we didn't think would be the case. But I think Pakistan had built up a little bit of momentum there. And then coming back, obviously, Ralph not being there was a big difference, and India capitalized on it. Like, anytime you lose by this big of a margin, you have to just admit that you were outplayed in all three departments. And getting back to the captaincy point, I understand that you had to get rid of Harris's overs. You had to bowl five of his overs through Ifti slash Agha. Um, but I think Babar came out thinking of that too soon. I had no problems with Babar's captaincy on day one. I actually like some of the shuffles he made of bringing in Rana. For anyone who doesn't know who Rana is, Fahim Ashraf.
persisting with
But
Shadab also.
persisting with Shadab. Those are the kind of decisions where you back your players that it gives them that extra bit of confidence. So I thought he did great on the first day, but the second day, I think obviously it's the 24th, 25th over that we started at. So there wasn't going to be a whole lot of movement, but still, you have to look at it almost as a test match in that sense. Ke, wo
Mm,
dobara aa rahe, they have to get set again, and it's a new session of play. Have a slip in there, have a couple of slips in there. Another point you and I kind of disagreed on a little bit was the fact that I think that at that stage of the game, you have to have the two biggest threats on in tandem for at least
mm,
3 to 4 overs, which I didn't like that Babar didn't enforce that at that time because the pitch is not going to get any harder to bat on in their innings. So I thought that you had to capitalize on the first couple of overs with them not being set, and having both of the Shahs run in together. I think would have been a statement in that sense. Whether it would have made a difference or not, I don't know. They played amazingly yesterday, but I just think it's something. Sometimes you have to make those statements when you come out and there's no split slip, the field spread, and you don't have your best attacking options on. मतलब उनको भी एक message आता है ना कि they're
mm.
thinking about those 5 overs from now, and it kind of I think goes into how they can pace the innings going forward.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree completely on that slip point. I think it was passive captaincy. I think at some point, like someone has to say something, like within the team. Like you can see, like Naseem Shah is getting the ball to move. He's still producing something even on the start of that second day, and you don't have a slip in. I think that's very disappointing for Babar. Like, I'm sorry, you have to back your bowlers. And
Yeah,
coming back to the point you said, it not only sends a message to the opposition, it sends a message to your team. Okay, we're here to win. We're here to get wickets. We're not just here to bowl out these 25 overs that are remaining in the day. And unfortunately, that sort of mentality feeded its way through, or fed its way through to the entire team, and they just seemed passive. They seemed lethargic. They seemed like there was no
energy नहीं
fight in
नजर
there.
आई.
When India started to build that partnership, it's like, okay, like this game is like gone already. I don't know how much that had to do with travel fatigue. We can talk about that a little bit. I don't want to give them excuses here, but I on the specific point about bowling Naseem Shah and Shaheen Shah together, I didn't mind the fact that one of them bowled from one end. I felt like bowling one of them and bowling a spinner from the other end was fine in that initial stage, because again, it just sort of prolongs their spells as well, because you did have to worry about the back end, and eventually like Fahim Ashraf did get sort of faltered even though he did bowl a good spell. It's not his job to bowl in the death overs. It was just something he had to do today, so I don't blame that on him. But yeah, as far as like the initial period, the passive nature of Babar's captaincy was something that really cost us, I believe, in this game. Again, if he had a slip, that's not saying that the score would have been any less or
Not
any
at all.
worse, but I feel like it would have sent a message to the entire team. And I feel like the Pakistan team, more than any other team, and this is the thing in cricket in general, like when a team as a fielding unit has their tails up, everyone's in, everyone's on their toes, everyone's walking in with the bowler. This happens with every team, but more so with Pakistan team, who's like fielding is so up and down. When we sense that momentum, when we get into that frame of mind, that's when we are at our most dangerous. And it almost felt like we had no intention of being that. And so feeding from that point, I was thinking about why that could be the case. Like, what could change? What when you have defeats like this, or like in the field, like performances like that, who can step up and enforce that or change that, or go to the captain and be like, hey, like this is what we need to do. And that's something that maybe this team lacks. Maybe they're too I guess Barber's like the captain, like he's
Yeah.
the leader of the side. They all back him, but maybe like they defer to him a little bit too much. I know like Rizwan, Shadab are also captains of their respective sides, and Shaheen is as well. But sometimes like Naseem Shah, for example, is a young bowler. I don't feel like he maybe has the confidence to go up to the captain and ask for that slip, and he needs to be able to develop that. Harsh Rauf as well. Like these guys, I know like Babar's the captain, but they're also here to win a match for Pakistan, and so they need to be a bit more aggressive about that. And so coming back to the point about the captains in the side and the leaders, all these guys are of a similar generation. So these guys are all either Babar's age or younger. Maybe like having a senior player in the squad in these times is helpful, and that's something we don't have because like I know in age, Iftikhar might be a little older than all these guys, but like he's not really like a leader of the side. I think we can all say that without like any disrespect to him as a player. So in that situation, like someone coming up to the captain and giving advice, like I know Kohli and Rohit obviously have been a lot more experienced. They've been like captains of their respective domestic sides, IPL teams, and etc. But at least having like Kohli as an ex-captain there means that if Rohit, like if there's something to say to him, he can say it. But in Pakistan's team, I don't know if anyone can say that. And sort of feeding from that point, last time in the Champions Trophy 2017, when we got absolutely pummeled by India in that first group stage match. Again, I don't know how much psychology plays a part in all this and how much that had an impact, but Shoaib Malik was the guy who stood up and spoke to the team and said, hey, like, this is not going to happen. Like, we're going to come back from this. I don't know who in that dressing room is able to do that and actually, like, put everyone in their place because sometimes, like, okay, like, we're all fans of these guys. We all believe that they'll bounce back. Like, I have no doubt about that. There's definitely flaws that have been like exposed a little bit today. But at the end of the day, it's about who's going to take that opportunity and bounce back, and who's going to like say the hard truths in the dressing room. And I don't know if there's anyone in there who like would be willing to step up and do that.
मेरे भाई को prof याद आ रहा है आज, हाँ?
No, bro, I said Malik. I didn't say Prof.
You didn't say, okay, fine, no prof. Malik yaad aa raha hai. Bro, it's really interesting you bring that point up because I've heard an interview of Rizwan where he said
Oh,
कि
by
कभी
the way,
कभार
please, like, I do not want Malik in the team. This is not me saying. I have to clear this up. Please, we do not need Shoaib Malik back. Not another comeback, please.
अब वो hosting कर रहा है sports पे. He's
Yeah, that's true.
anyways. I was listening to an interview from Rizwan a little while back और वो बोल रहा था कि कभी कभार मैं शादाब साथ खड़े हुए होते and Babar's making certain decisions और हम एक दूसरे को देखते कि
Mm,
मतलब ये क्यों कर रहा है
mm,
and then that decision pays off.
yeah.
So Babar, obviously, he has a cult like following amongst world cricket, especially Pakistani fans. But I almost think that he has that cult like following in his dressing room as well, which obviously it's a great thing because he's somebody who they see as an inspiring guy. I feel like they'd run through a wall for him. But like you said, sometimes you have to humanize the guy a little bit. Um, I don't know, man. I feel like these suggestions. There's no way Shaheen, Rizwan, and Shadab don't give their suggestions. Matlab, maybe they're going about it from the wrong point of view as a team. We know what kind of cricketing mind Mickey is,
Mickey
but
wasn't even there for this game, man. Like I know he's like the
yeah,
emotional, like you see him always reacting whenever something's going wrong. You know he's gonna give it to the team if you
yeah,
don't play well, but he wasn't there. And I don't know how like what power Grant Bradman has or what he brings to the table. Like I'm gonna be very honest, like I
yeah.
don't know. I'm not saying that he's a bad coach or
There's
anything like that,
no
but there's no
there's no
evidence for me
transparency in our
to be
leadership
able
group right
to
now from that
yeah,
point.
to be able to judge him on.
I Babar surprises me as a captain because there'll be days where you go and the way he's moving through his bowlers, it's like you say, it's like that passion is there in every facet of the game at that point. But then there's days where you feel like, whoa, a part of me thinks कि वो जो I don't want to bring it up, लेकिन वो जो मेलबर्न का मैच था, I think वो बहुत ज्यादा इफेक्ट दिया हुआ है उसने, मतलब पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट को, in a sense के
The Nawaz having to bowl the last over
yeah,
because
yeah,
we didn't
yeah,
have anyone else to do that, and so we're
yeah.
always worried about death overs.
Always worried. From that game, I remember there was an Asia Cup game before where we almost got away with it. Like Nawaz did bowl a good
Hmm.
last over in that one.
Yeah,
But MCG, I think that game has kind of shifted the way that Babar looks at his captaincy, and I also think it's man. I was talking to someone about this that day. Like it's a tangent, but like Muhammad Nawaz Shahid before he got into the team, if we just look at him from his PSL performances and even some of the innings he's played for Pakistan, comes across as one of those clutch guys, right?
mm,
Like the way we've seen him bowl at the death within the PSL, the way we've seen him bat for Pakistan, and it's almost like that one over has completely changed the perception we have of him as well. Uska bhi wo conference nahi laga. So I think if there's any baggage from that particular game, I hope not. Like obviously I'm an outsider um, with a random ass opinion, but I hope it's not the case. And if it is, then they need to get over that because every game is
100%.
different. Do you see any of that though lingering from last year?
Oh, absolutely. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing while watching the match. They're too worried about death overs, not worried about the present. Bro, like Virat Kohli, the way he changes gears is like unlike any other batsman in the world. Like I guess you could say we've seen that from Ben Stokes in Test cricket, but that's just like another level where
Different
he's just
level, yeah,
blocking every ball and
yeah.
then hitting the next one for six. The transition from going from and Gautam Gambhir was on commentary, and like obviously I never want India to like do well against Pakistan or Kohli to do well against Pakistan, but I did get a
Especially
little
now
bit of
with
pleasure.
Gambhir is on commentary.
No, but I
Yeah,
did get a little bit of pleasure from the fact that Gautam Gambhir was talking, okay, not during the game, obviously, but later on, thinking about it, that he was calling out Virat Kohli for not being aggressive enough,
yeah,
for like getting a move on, and then that perfectly timed innings where he just
yeah, yeah.
just balloons off, and that strike rate goes off, and the shots are coming off, and everything. When you have a guy like that at the crease, you cannot let him get into those death
No,
overs, bro.
no.
We've seen it before, so like,
वही तो
why are
मसला है
we
ना bro.
not getting
वही तो
those wickets
मसला है
early?
bro.
Same with Rohit. Like, if we don't get him out in the first 10 overs, you're like, you're fucked, bro. Like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
gonna come at you.
Thing with Kohli though, just to hit on that, like I think a very underrated part of his game is कि मतलब वो आते सिंगल ढूंढता है वो.
Yeah,
So the way
100%.
to
And
frustrate Virat Kohli is to kind of close that off as much as you can. But in this game, never even for a second did it look like, maybe during the initial 15 odd balls, but after that, like he was milking us almost until like the
bro,
40th over, and then he hits that other gear that we've talked about for years. That he goes into a completely different zone, and no shot is unplayable for him at that point. Like he,
yeah, bro, it's the same thing. It's like defensive captaincy. Shadab comes on to bowl, and the long on is back, and there's an easy single down the ground. There's an
shoe say, bro.
true say,
Yeah,
and like,
yeah, yeah.
bro, the only way to
But
get
Hugs,
these
that
guys
also
out is
goes
to
back. I'm
stifle
sorry to
them.
interrupt you. That goes back to another point, though. Okay, like देखो कप्तान can give you whatever feels he wants, लेकिन अगर as a bowler तुम खुद confident नहीं हो ना, तो
To
you will
ask
have
for it,
those feelings
yeah,
back. So I don't
100%.
know कि उसका भी कितना confidence level था शादाब का. You'd hope that it wasn't that low at the beginning, लेकिन अगर मतलब इससे थोड़ा ज़ाया होता है ना, like you coming back on, them having to get set again, and you having a long on to start again, it just goes back to the message that you sent
Mm,
from the get go. So
yep, 100%.
yeah, but
Yeah, we'll need to sort of reassess, rethink what the plans are here, because like we can't be this passive in the middle overs. Like, it's almost like,
no,
okay, the fast bowlers are gonna bowl the first 10, they're gonna take wickets, and then we're just gonna sit back and we're gonna wait and go to sleep. सो जाते हैं 30 ओवर के लिए सो जाते हैं और फिर लास्ट 10 overs आएंगे, and then the
वही
fast bowlers
especially
will bring
Shadab been
things back,
destroyed.
and it's the same thing that happened against the first match against India. The only difference was this time, like, we didn't get those wickets up front, right? First match में क्या हुआ?
Yeah,
66 for 4, and then went to sleep in the middle overs, and then back again at the death. So it's almost like
yeah.
the fielders जाग जाते हैं जब end में होता है, like जब fast bowlers are bowling, everyone's alive, but when the spinners are bowling, everyone's sleeping, everyone's doing misfields, everyone's like not backing those bowlers up either. So that's
That's been
something
the biggest concern.
that's a team mentality thing, and that is going to have to be addressed. Like, I'm sorry, like, you can't continue
Yeah,
like this going into a World Cup. On the other hand, like, I'm glad I've mentioned this before as well. I'm glad that this all happened this game because it ideally would have happened a little bit um, further back from the World Cup, but lately, like the games we played was against Afghanistan or whatever, so we're a good enough side to put them away, and even when we have those
Yeah,
bad days. But yeah, this is when
इन
you
टीमों के
faced like
खिलाफ
a
नहीं
top
चलेगा.
side. I'm just
Yeah,
really disappointed that we didn't get the see the chase from the first game because again I don't know if we'd have made it. I'm pretty confident we would
I
have,
think
but
we would
again
have made
given
it. I think we would have
given
made it.
the situation, I think like having that win under our belts would be make us a lot more confident going into
Yeah,
the next game against Sri Lanka as well. But just because we don't have that, now it just looks like, oh, you've beaten Nepal and Bangladesh and Afghanistan in the series before.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you on paper, like if you're looking for confidence, maybe that doesn't give you as much. But again, I don't have that many concerns. I think there are things to be addressed, and I think hopefully I'm confident that they will be. Um,
yeah. I just had one more quick point on the bowling, and we can spend like a minute or so on it.
hmm,
I think Naseem Shah is an unbelievable bowler. I think we've talked about it a few
outstanding.
times that maybe without having reached the peaks of Rauf and Shaheen yet, from like just naturally looking at it, I think he's the most naturally complete bowler of the three in a
100%.
lot of ways. I wanted to talk to you about what he's being told by the management because we talk about this a lot too. Like any bowler who comes in, it's been a history of Pakistan cricket. Whether the guy has disappeared after the next month or year is a completely different story. But when a Pakistani bowler gets into the team and the team management tells him that you're our fucking guy, you end up seeing him really buy into that as well. And we saw that when Shaheen was injured last
Yep.
year in the Asia Cup. Obviously, the conditions are different. Like in wo skill length मुख्तलिफ थी. He was bowling a little bit fuller and at the stumps. Right
Mhm.
now, it's not a concern, but I don't. Obviously, it might be his natural length. लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं मुझे ये भी लगता है कि he's been giving that role as a container, which I don't mind. You have to balance the attack,
Mhm.
but there's days where um,
It has to
for this
turn.
pitch, it was probably right because we saw with the Indian Pacers as well, short of the length is what was working. But at times, you wish that he had a little bit of more freedom to go
Yeah,
and
full.
attack the stumps a little bit more with the type of
Yeah.
movement. And
It does seem like he's been given that plan. I think that's pretty clear. And I think that just because Shaheen um, doesn't have that other gear, like his
yeah,
natural gear is like to look for wickets to pitch the ball up, while Naseem has that. But it's like you said, when like Shaheen wasn't there, Naseem almost came into his own with like getting those wickets, and I feel like he can do that. And I think some games maybe you have to give him the license to pitch it up. To be fair to him, or to be fair to the team, like he was delivering on whatever his plan was. It's just that
yeah,
maybe like a couple of balls in the over, you can go for it. And I think he could have picked up
yeah.
a wicket or two to
And he
doing
did
that.
have
So
it,
yeah,
bro. Like he got hit between the slip cord and without
yeah,
anyone, raising a hand. Obviously, there's a lot of PTSD with that. And when he remembers Ross Taylor's innings that ended Shoaib Akhtar's career in 2011, like we saw similar things that day. But I guess the less we talk about, the better. But yeah, I think with Naseem, we also like blended after this, I guess, like in बेचारा unlucky भी बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. And
yeah,
you see it
100%.
like he bowls one hell of a
His heart
spell,
out. Yeah.
and somehow he doesn't catch the edge. So at least in one day he catches up at the death and stuff, and you see him compile a little bit more wickets. But we saw it in the T20 World Cup last year as well. That this guy is always on the money. I think he can hit a dime on the pitch. You put a
Yeah.
dime somewhere, he has the accuracy that he can do that. But for whatever reason, अभी तक उसके वो विकेटें शायद नहीं आए जो उसके शायद आने चाहिए थे. So
Mhm.
hopefully that's something that we'll see more of with him nicking a couple of guys off and kind of getting those rewards going forward.
Yep. Agreed. Coming to the batting, I'm gonna get straight to it. Like, if Fakhr does not look at it at all. Like, I'm sorry.
No.
Like like we defended him last time. Like we spoke about how he needs to be in the team, and I'm not saying that that needs to change, but like I don't know what to do because he does not look at it. Like if he'd made like 5 or 6 balls, I still probably would have felt better about it. But he like had the time at the crease, and he just didn't look comfortable at all. Like, firstly, this is a wider point. This is something that I want to speak about the entire batting lineup, but they can't pick Kuldeep at all. They can't pick a left arm spinner. I don't know if the wrist spinner. I don't know if that's because like we don't have a similar bowler. But bro, like bring someone up, bring a net bowler in, bring what's his name, Sufyan Mukim,
Faisal
bring
Akram.
Faisal Akram, bring
Yeah,
these guys, bro. Like you
yeah.
need to practice.
They
You
should have
cannot
been
pick
on that tour with
Chacha
them right
cannot pick
now.
the left arm spinner. No one in the team can pick them. Like
Chacha, I wasn't surprised about, but yeah, like
yeah,
everybody seemed to have. I mean, it's weird because Kuldeep bowled amazingly, but he was like the kind of contest we were building up for. At least like
Mhm.
was like a Babar versus Kuldeep type one. And by the time he came on, like the meat of our batting, a lot of it was
Yeah.
like was
I
gone.
mean, I think
Um,
when Babar Azam gets bowled by an in-swinging delivery, like like there, it's not your day.
it's a tough pitch. It's a tough
It's,
pitch,
I
and
mean,
that's not to
honestly,
excuse
like credit
our bowling, but
credit
they
to
bowled.
Pandya. I didn't know he had that like level in him. Like he definitely
He
showed
does
that every
against
time
us.
against Pakistan. Another one who always performs against us, and I feel like he's a clutch player as well. Like he's a big game player and he
Really, really
delivers.
clutch player.
But yeah, it did. Like Babar was a little bit all over the place there, and he did get done. We don't see that very often.
Set up Babar beautifully. I think what I really want to get at is the fact that again we go back to Shubman Gill, young lad, man, like 23,
Mhm.
24 years old, like new in international cricket, and he's taking on who, in my opinion, is the best bowler across formats right now in China. Freely, having the guts to go after him, use his feet. The Indian seamers within the first 10, 11 overs did not move from that length. How many balls did you see on that back of a length just going away and leaving the bat? Um, I would have liked to see some intent. Again, the loss is
100%.
not the issue. No, when you're chasing 357, no one is expecting. I mean, we're very loyal Pakistani fans. We're gonna see the bright side, but probability wise, no one is really backing you to win that game. So use your feet. Come out of the crease. We've seen Imam. It's one of his trademark shots is to come out, and I think he was maybe biding his time a little bit, and he got nicked off by really good delivery. Like that's
I
something you'll
think
see
I don't
in the first three
blame
or four
Imam today
wickets.
because I felt like he came
No,
out
I
with
don't
the
blame
right
him.
intent, like to
Yeah, yeah, I
see the
do.
game out, and he like when he got the width, he put the ball away. I think it was really unfortunate for us this game that Imam was the one who got out. Again, he
Yeah.
brilliant bowling, and you can't always
I
again
mean,
like
the first three wickets, I think, were all class deliveries. Even,
yeah,
believe it or not, freaking Shardul Thakur
Shardul
coming in,
Thakur, man,
bowling an
come
absolute
on, yeah.
gaffer. But
Like,
I
do you
still would have
think?
liked to see some intent, though, like from Fakhr, especially because Fakhr is the guy who will play those shots where he'll rush down like the wicket to a fast
Yeah,
bowler, Matthew Hayden style, and try to take him over cow corner. Something, man. Like you have to get the guy off his length, right? Like again, it goes back to the
mhm,
Shubman
yeah,
point. Usko to Yorker karana hai aage se, so why don't I move my feet and disturb him a
yeah,
little bit? Like you can't just let them bowl you like that. And again, with Imam, like we talked about, I think I don't blame him because I think for me as a fan, I was saying, yeah, Bumrah ka initial spell nikal do. 10 over ka, even if you're like 45, 50 for zero, I think it could have been okay. But obviously losing those wickets and then having everybody else not use their feet the same way, and they felt like nine pins today, man. There's no other way to put it.
mhm,
There was no fight.
yeah,
The only one who looked like he had a little bit of intent was Salman Ali Agha,
mhm,
who then
yeah.
went and he swept the ball into his face.
Bro,
But
like
aside from
nothing was
that,
going our way. Like
yeah,
like literally Murphy's Law, everything that could go
this
wrong
was a
went wrong.
Murphy's Law game.
Shaheen got that little finger injury niggle. I don't think it's anything serious, but it was something. Harris ruled out, possibly from the tournament. Naseem going off injured shoulder injury. MRI scan has been cleared, like showing
Yeah,
that there's no serious injury, but again, probably ruled out for the tournament. Precautionary, which I absolutely back.
till
Like
the final
you
at
should
least. Yeah,
rest him. Yeah.
yeah.
And then Aga Salman getting hit in the face. But yeah, going back
This
to
wasn't
that
our
point,
day.
it
Yeah,
wasn't our day. The batsmen were on the back foot. I mean, I honestly don't know what the plan was. Like, if there's two ways you can approach it, right? You can either, and obviously from the start, you're not saying you're writing the game off, but like once you lose wickets, what's the approach then? So let's break it down in two phases. First is like the
yeah,
first 10, where again we already mentioned all of it. Like didn't do anything out of the box to put the bowlers off their line. Sort of just like passive in the field we spoke about earlier, passive with the bat, just waiting for them to come and take your wicket essentially. Then
yeah.
moving in after like you lost the first three wickets, what's your plan then? Are you planning on batting the 50 overs and seeing like how close you can get to that target and at least like worst case like fixing that net run rate, or are you like just saying okay we'll just go for the slog right now and just take the game to India? What did we do? Did we do either of those things? No.
There wasn't a
I don't
plan.
know what the
There
plan
wasn't a
was.
plan.
Like, was it to bat 50 overs or was it to take the game?
I
Because
couldn't tell you.
there was
Yeah.
no plan. And at the end of the day, that's like pathetic. like from the
Yeah,
middle order. Like I know they have struggles against spin, but like what was that? Like what did we see? That's not the Pakistan cricket team that
yeah,
we know
yeah.
and love.
Not at
And
all.
it just yeah, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like it just felt like I don't know if it's sometimes when we play India, there's a lot of hype around that game, and there's a lot of pressure because of that. And in the past, like we used to wilt under the pressure. Recently, we're sort of rising to the occasion in those
We
games.
compete every
Today,
game,
I
no matter
felt
what
like
is. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Today, I felt like it wasn't that they wilted under pressure or anything like that. I felt like they almost didn't have any pressure or weren't taking this game like seriously because it felt like
Mhm.
everyone was so passive. It's almost like, oh, we've played so much cricket, we've done so much traveling. This is just another game, which is fine. Like, I mean, that's how you should take it. It's like a round robin game, but like, come on, bro, when you're seeing like your team is struggling, not one person is putting their hand up and saying, hey, like Babar's not doing well, I'm going to put my hand up, I'm going to deliver today, or Shahin's not bowling well, I'm going to do it today. Like, that is concerning. That's the concerning part
There wasn't a
for
point in
me.
our run chase where we looked in it, right? Which is,
No.
देखो अगर आप खेल रहे हो ना, आप 350 चेस कर रहे हो, and even if you lose by 100, you get bowled out for 200. एक मतलब फेज तो आती है जिसमें आप बोलते हो कि यार हमने दूसरी टीम पे प्रेशर डाला, जो कि इसमें बिल्कुल भी नहीं था. Like you didn't see any sort of resistance from anyone. Again, man, like we're not, for anybody who doesn't know us as well, we're not the most reactionary fans in that sense. So I mean, again, like personally speaking, and I think I can speak for you as well. Like we're gonna put it down to what Mickey said in 2017, that it's just an aberration, um,
Mm,
and fittingly so, like with our name being a homage to that 2017 Champions Trophy. I think it's something. Look, we've analyzed the shit out of it, but it's one of those games that as a team, yes, like you have to recognize where you were off in terms of your attitude, where your flaws were in terms of the thought behind your execution. But after that, this is just one of those days where you have to just let it go,
yeah,
because this is not something that will happen all the time. We hope, nor should it. We know our team is better than this. They should know they're better than this. Or cricket में ये सब चलता है कभी कभार.
yeah,
Like I know you guys want us to rip their heads off, but I mean that's the reality. This is cricket. These days do happen sometimes, and if anything, like Brad Burns said, it could be a blessing that it came at this stage, because
yeah,
maybe we'll be grounded after this. We'll be able to play with a more rejuvenated sense of freedom after this, and maybe that element of staying humble. If I'm not saying it did, but if it crept in at any point, then we're the number one team, right? Thing. These things can humble you, and losses at the right time can be very critical with something like a World Cup coming up. You'd rather
yeah,
have you get this type of performance out of the way now.
yeah. Two final things to add. One you sort of alluded to by referencing the name of this podcast. Not that important. A few people did ask me, or at least I felt not weren't sure about why we named it that. So just going back to the 2017 Champions Trophy final, Pakistan put 300 on the board. India are chasing that. India are a phenomenal chasing side. Virat Kohli is the best one-day batsman in the world. He's in his prime. He is the pinnacle ODI chaser, and he's batting. India lose an early wicket. Mohammad Amir bowls the perfect delivery, gets him nicking off the slip, and Azhar Ali puts it down. And Saurav Ganguly asks, how important is that going to be? And then next ball, Kohli's gone. Shadab takes the catch. Not that important is what Nasser Hussain responds with. But I'd also want to sort of touch on what he said after that, which was Pakistan cricket at its best, 1 minute down, next minute up.
Next minute up.
And so, yeah, I back the boys and we'll be back. So, yeah, I think we can put a line under that game and talk now about what we're going to do
हाँ, सब
moving
थोड़ा
forward.
chill करें, मतलब
Easy.
easy, easy. अभी बहुत time है, इंशाल्लाह. There's a lot of
अभी
time.
वर्ल्ड कप
These
खेलना है
guys
ब्रो.
will fix
अभी
it, and ये सब होता
yeah.
है. You have to kind of take these hits as
Just
a
praying
Pakistan
that
fan.
there's no rain on Thursday, so that we can at least have a chance to answer them back before the World Cup. Because in the
Yeah,
World Cup, you're going to play 9 must-win games, and obviously you're
yeah.
not going to be expected to win all of them, but you're going to have to treat it as such.
Gonna have to win at
Anyway,
least
so
two.
moving forward, Haris Rauf and Naseem Shah are most likely ruled out, so those are two changes. I don't know what Agha Salman's injury is like, but maybe him as well. we were chatting about what changes we would make because I think we do need changes, and especially with those bowlers injured, there definitely will be something happening. Apparently, Zaman Khan and Shahnawaz Dhani have been called up as like backup pacers. Um, um, I was thinking that I think we need to get Nawaz back into the side because I know he didn't bowl well in the India game and he hasn't really been in form generally. But I feel like Pakistan need a fit and firing and informed Nawaz going into this World Cup because none of our bowlers, like we don't get that control from any other spinner that he gives us, and I feel like it's time to play him back into form because I don't think you're pulling anyone else like a wild card out at this time, and someone needs to be in form bowling those middle overs, and I think that's going to be Nawaz. So we need to get him back in the side. If Agha's not fit, I would even get him in for Agha. Um, and then I was thinking maybe Osama Mir, so that like if because I think Shadab definitely stays in the side. I think on his batting and fielding alone, even if he's not bowling full 10 overs. So Osama Mir as a leg spinner, I wouldn't mind that. And of course Wasim Junior rounding it off. Again, that would mean that Fahim Ashraf is the third baser, which I know you're not a big fan of him being third baser. So I'll let you talk about what you would like to see.
Look, man, we're Pakistani cricket fans. The very thought of having Rana steam in with the new ball, bowling 127 k's per hour, it's not what I want to see, brother. It's not what I want to see. You're not gonna like this because Hux is, to be fair, Shayan's been talking about Fahim Ashraf and his improved batting for almost a year, and he's right. Fahim Ashraf, I think, did deserve the call up. But in this situation, if I do bring Nawaz in, it's gonna be for Fahim Ashraf. I think it's pitch contingent, which is a scary thought of our guys having to read a pitch successfully. Um, and not just we make that joke, but all around world cricket, there's very few guys who can look at a pitch and accurately say exactly what the hell they'll do. But if it is a dust bowl like this, it's a no-brainer for me that Nawaz has to come in. I bring him in for Fahim Ashraf again because I want you're gonna have Shaheen there. Um, we're gonna make a pretty educated guess here that Wasim Jr. is gonna come in because they've carried him for the last 2 years and he deserves the spot. And then I would play one of the Hani or Zaman. Then I'm gonna go with three proper pacers.
In that case, I would
If
go Zaman Khan, in my opinion.
Let's get into this
What
a little
about
bit.
you?
Actually, let's get into this a little bit. Were you happy with the two names that we got?
Yeah, because I think Esanullah and Hassan are injured, so I think default is
Okay,
these two.
is these
I
two then?
think
Yeah,
that's apparently what like I would have liked. I mean, Esanullah is too young, but I feel like he has the potential. Like I like what I
he's
see
got it.
from
He's
him.
got it, bro.
Maybe too early.
Yeah,
With Zaman, I think like he's been building up to this, and we've discussed that potentially next year T20 World Cup is going to be his time to shine if he gets
yeah,
that opportunity.
yeah.
So I think yeah. Again, I don't think either of these guys are going to the World Cup, but giving them that game instead of Shaheen, or sorry, not Shaheen,
Yeah,
Naseem and Haris is a good opportunity for them to at least put their name in the hat. And again, if they perform, that's great. If not, no problem. They're
yeah.
probably not going unless there's an injury. So I don't see any harm in throwing them in. Wasim Junior, I'll be interested in seeing how he performs. And then yeah, I guess if you're picking Nawaz instead of Fahim, that means that your boy Saud Shakil is coming in for Agha, I
If
guess, is
Aga's not fit, if
if
Aga's
Aga's
not
not
fit,
fit. But I actually like
again,
that. I
pitch
know I didn't
contingent.
state yeah, sorry, to interrupt. I know I didn't say South Shaquille in my the changes I mentioned, but I think I agree with that to be honest, because we need someone who plays spin better. And um I was thinking more about like lengthening our batting by having like Osama Mir, Wasim Jr., like Fahim Nawaz, a lot of all rounders, but maybe we just need one guy who can just stick out there instead of having like a lot of bit part players. I
Yeah.
think that maybe because that would more likely be the 11 we would play in the World Cup. So I guess in that from that sense, I do agree that South Shakil would make sense if you're sitting out Fahim for Nawaz.
It's a tough one, bro, because like again, this is all contingent. We've seen two very different pitches in these last 2 days in Colombo. In my opinion, at least, if it's a dust bowl like it was in the Sri Lanka India game, by the way, shout out to Walalage, who is an absolute stud, and I'm sure we'll get into that later. But in that game, it was an absolute dust bowl, man. So there's a shout for Osama, there's a shout for Nawaz, there's a
Mhm.
shout for Saud. बात क्या
And
होती है ना कि how you
speaking
want to
of
find the balance.
Walalage, South Shakil left-hander plays spin well. We
Yeah,
might need to think about how to
absolutely,
counter him. So
absolutely. Saud, I want to get the thing with Ifti is like you can't drop Ifti. He scored 100 a couple of games
mhm.
ago. if we're going strictly by horses for courses, maybe he is the one to miss out on this type of a pitch.
Mhm,
But you can't do that to a guy's confidence, I don't think. I would like to get Saud in there, but again, like it depends on how you balance your team. You need to still have the six bowling options, and with Sri Lanka, they also do have some a lot of left-handed batters. So you'll see that off spin maybe
mhm.
prove
Be
to be a little bit
useful.
more threatening than it's been.
Cool.
And then
Yeah,
just one more point I wanted to add was that if anybody is thinking that we're nervous that Naseem and Haris are out, like I'm not at all. Like
bro. Like I think one
we're
thing that a lot of people are not really understanding, or again, I get it. Asia Cup is big. We want to win it. Don't get me wrong at all. But
yeah
like this is the first time in a long time that I felt like going into World Cup we have a shot at it. Like at least like I feel like we should be in the semis. Don't want to get too ahead of myself. Like we have to prove it. We have to go out there and perform. But I back our boys, and I think we can do that. And so the big picture has to be prioritized. And bro, like we've had
and these
Shaheen
guys are good
injured
enough,
for
I
a long
think.
time.
Yeah.
We dealt with it. We had half with Shaheen and we got to the T20 World Cup final. We had no Shaheen and we got to the Asia Cup final in the T20
Yeah.
version last year. So yeah, I don't have any problem with that. And yeah, giving these guys a chance is just another chance for us to show how many base bowlers we have in our
And for them to
factory.
get that experience. And again, like none of these guys look like they're in the picture at all, bro. But like, come on, if you're a Zaman Khan or if you're the Hani, like you're smiling cheek to cheek, like ear to ear right
Bro,
now because you're thinking that
imagine you
bro,
take a
मुझे
fiver.
जाके
Imagine you
एक
take a
पंजा
fiver.
लेना है इंडिया के
Yeah,
खिलाफ फाइनल में और मैं वर्ल्ड कप तक भी जा सकता हूँ. Like
exactly.
this is how they should be thinking, and this is how our fast bowlers think. So I'd love to see these guys. I wanted to ask you if you had to pick. Um, I might even like. I think there's a couple of guys who could have been thrown as well, but just between the Hani and Zaman, um, let's go through the pros and cons of what you get with each one and how it affects the balance of the bowling attack with each player's. I'd probably lean Zaman, but like it's if you're looking at it from like a balance point of view, like Junior is stepping into the Rauf role,
Mhm.
right? Excuse me. Yeah,
Yes.
he's stepping into the Rauf role, right? As a first change bowler. So it depends on who you think will do a better job with the new ball. The Hani probably has a little bit more of that swing.
Yeah.
He can hit really quick paces and just rewind back to a couple of years ago. He was the number one of the very top two or
Talented.
three
Yeah.
prospects in Pakistani fast bowling. Probably can swing the ball a little bit more, but man, like there's something about Zaman Khan and
Mhm.
I don't know. I've been a massive fan of his since his first season. I think there's something slightly psychotic about him. I think, I mean, like you watch him in those pressure situations, and the guy is
Bro,
smiling.
he is
There's
on it.
he's a mental
He
menace,
loves it.
though. Like he loves the pressure, and there's something very special about him. Obviously, it's a different format, so the depth over last over situation might not factor in as much. But I think with his action and with the variations he bowls, if the wicket holds up like we've seen, I think playing his variations can be very hard. And the one thing I know about him, not that Dahani is not a confident guy himself, he absolutely is, but Zaman, I think, um, has the mindset that you could again put him into this type of situation and he might actually thrive. The only concern is I know he's bowled a little bit with Lahore Qalandars in the power play. If he comes in, I don't know what you do then because I mean, they're all good bowlers, but ideally you don't want one junior bowling with the new ball. I don't know if you want Zaman bowling with the new ball. Um, I don't know if you really have a Naseem Shah replacement
Yeah.
in that sense.
That's true. And that's something we'll have to contend with and make a decision on. It will be like a risk regardless of who you choose. But again, I'm not that worried about that. Hopefully it doesn't cost us. I don't think it will. I think we just need to back ourselves and the rest of the players need to
More
step
worried about the
up.
batting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. More worried about the batting against Sri Lanka
more
because
worried
we
about
do
the batting.
struggle against spin and they have a lot of players who are on form right now. Um, and yeah, let's see how it goes. One thing, I think we've gone a little bit longer than we intended to, which always happens when we talk about cricket. But um, to wrap it up, I think I want to take us back to 2021 T20 World Cup in Dubai. Pakistan win all their games in the group stage, and they go into the semifinals and they're red hot. But at the back of our minds, something is telling us that this isn't the way things are. This is Pakistan we're
It
talking
can't
about.
be this easy.
Things cannot be this easy, and we eventually, like, obviously that was a heartbreaking game. Like, I think maybe even more heartbreaking than, I don't know if it's more heartbreaking than the World Cup final against England, but it was definitely up there.
It
Just the
hurt.
way the
It
game
hurt.
went, it did hurt and take some time to recover from. But yeah, talking about Pakistan cricket, we always talk about corner tigers. We always talk about bouncing back from adversity. We always talk about not doing things the easy way. And just going into a World Cup as a number one ODI side with a bunch of wins on the back to back, would not have been a Pakistan cricket thing to do. So let's just say this is maybe a blessing in disguise. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, and inshallah, the boys will bounce back, and
Inshallah.
we'll be
Inshallah.
we'll be feeling a lot better about things in a few days' time. Let's see. Let's hope the rain stays away and gives us a chance to bounce back.
Yeah.
But regardless, it has shown us that we're not the perfect side by any means, and that's okay. That's something that we knew, but maybe it's exposed some of our flaws a little bit. I feel like, again, at the end of the day, it's more about mentality. At this level, like, we know we have the skills. Like, for sure, I think it's all summed up in, like, Shadab's bowling as well. Like, he has the skills. It's just about how he's feeling on the day in terms of, like, confidence and his rhythm. And once he gets that, he'll do better. And similarly, once Pakistan team picks up that momentum again, which I feel will do in a couple of games, we'll be back on a roll again. So yeah, that's all that I have to say on this game. And like I said, hopefully the rain stays away and gives us a chance to come back.
Back the boys.
Back
Back
the
the boys.
boys.
Back the
Let's do
boys.
this.